It's just over 2 months to the next municipal election, and I thought it'd be a great time to sit down and have kind of a recap of what's happened in 4 years here in Valemount with our local council, and what better person to do that with than Mayor Owen Torgerson.
Really pleased to be here, Michael. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for sitting down with me. And a broad range of topics here, and feel free to add anything that you want to add in there, but we'll kind of talk a little bit about sort of past, present, and future, if you will. This is your 12th year now in municipal politics, 2 terms as mayor. It's your 2nd term just passed, 1 term as councillor, also a director on the board of the Regional District of Fraser-Fort George, among other many various committee duties that you have that keep you very busy.
Well, I was also on the Advisory Planning Commission prior to the 2014 election, as well as the CBT's Adjudication Committee for way back when for the Community Initiatives Program that's been renamed to the REDIP program.
Ready program. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's been a great program. I want to take a look at the current council and the term that we're just finishing up here now. It started very unusually, as you will remember, and we'll tell people at home about that as well. For the first time, I believe, in history here of Valemount politics, there were not enough candidates to fill the slate.
Not just the history of Valemount, but in the history of BC local government elections. We were shy 2 seats following the nomination period in 2022, and had to go through the appointment process, and quite the learning experience, I recall, and thank you very much to our partners at BCTV for, those several interviews back then to hopefully walk potential candidates through the self-nomination process and really work with municipal affairs in Victoria to realize what it really looks like in small towns. I can remember Zabalis on the island had to have an appointment process through a by-election, and I recall even the Regional District Fraser-Fort George having to have an appointment process through a by-election, but never in the history has a municipality been required to appoint 2 members, or 40% of your council.
Well, there you go. It's certainly something we don't want to see happen, but it was an interesting process, and I think an educational and informative process for everyone. And in the end, Councillor Hugo Mullock and Donnie McLean were appointed and have served admirably.
Absolutely, yeah. Really formed a really good team. Want to thank, we had 13 applicants through the self-nomination process, and each one of them brought something unique to the table. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So it started a little slow, but it worked out.
It's never a dull moment in local government, Michael.
True enough. Council priorities, strategic priorities that you set for every council for 2023 to 2027 were 4 pillars: communication, fiscal responsibility, health and safety, and development and diversification. Do you want to talk a little bit about what maybe your proudest accomplishments in all or any of those areas would be?
Well, I think my personal proudest moments were the signing of 2 MOUs, Memorandum of Understandings. The first one was with Simp First Nation, and the second one with Lheidli First Nation. Recognizing that your voice really gets expanded upon when you work with nations, either neighboring or within territories. And we're quite restricted in terms of, even as a mayor or a regional district rep, really our boundaries are 5.17 square kilometers. Right. If there's an issue 20 kilometers to the north or the south, having both the relationship and backing of neighboring communities is absolutely massive, particularly with their government-to-government partnerships with Victoria. Mm-hmm. I can expand later on when we...
Sure, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but certainly it's, in my brief time here in Valemount, it's been great to see that those relationships develop and hopefully bring new ideas and new innovations to the community as well. So that's great. Some of the events and or items that occurred here or are being developed or were developed during this time, and we'll just kind of briefly hit on them, maybe almost like stream of consciousness kind of thing here. Valemount Glacier Destinations Resort. I think a lot of people are still wondering what's going on with that project. Have you heard, what do you know about what the status is?
Still raising capital, you can imagine, in this sort of global outlook, especially turbulent economic times, both down south and overseas. I understand the proponent has been looking overseas and down south for potential partnerships in the project. The master development agreement does not expire until 2077, so there is time to shovels in the ground, so to speak. One of the things that you speak with Chief and Counsel at CIMC, the environmental assessment. Does it have an expiry? In the wording of the agreement, no. That has been concluded. However, more updates to come, but I think while the project has stalled, it hasn't. There hasn't been a sunset.
Right, and I mean they still would like to see it push forward. They're not abandoning it or even shelving it at this point.
Well, I think with the support of the province, First Nations, local community, the proponent is really steadfast on wanting to get this project off the ground, and folks like you and me with some boards on our feet.
Mm-hmm, yeah, absolutely. Well, we are sitting here right outside the VCTV television towers, the community television towers, and with a beautiful, gorgeous view of Valemount and the mountains right below us there. But we're also on the Valemount Bike Park site here as well, and that has something that was before this council started, obviously, but it has definitely blossomed and grown since then. Do you want to, and I believe you're on the board of VARDA, are you not? Do you want to maybe speak a little bit to the development of the bike park and how that's benefited the community?
Well, first off, I don't think you could have chosen a more scenic spot for this conversation. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's
the Valemount Bike Park has been a real gem, and I want to thank the patience of both YORA, where it really originated from. The development agreement with Reg Sites and Trails got to a point where a volunteer board or volunteers simply got it to a point where you kind of needed paid staff to really take it to the next level, and when they had a conversation with the VARDA board and Curtis Polyuk, the executive director, you could really see that upward curve really explode. New trails, trail maintenance, and that's the biggest thing. When you're looking at any sort of built infrastructure, you really have to look at that maintenance of that piece of infrastructure, that asset. And just having that trail crew on site has really made this a reputable destination for anyone looking to catch what's the phrase? Catch some air, and it's not just for that sort of style of riding. North of Swift Creek has cross-country trails, and the bike park also provides access, and again, back to maintenance, particularly the 5 Mile Road. Again, funding partnerships with Valemount Community Forest grades it. It also provides hikers with access to the Alpine through both the Swift Trail system, the bike park up through to McCurry Mountain, and I can't say enough about what it means to give people more opportunities to be in the backcountry.
Right. And what have you seen from the village's perspective in terms of economic development as a result of the bike park activities?
Well, subjectively, I've seen 5 businesses either open or expand as a direct result of the mountain bike park. Valemount was really centered around a winter visitor-based economy, snowmobiling. Mm-hmm. And when this came to be, it drew another demographic, and in droves. But again, back to that patience thing with the VARDA organization. While they were in the early years of development, nothing was marketed. And so everything was word of mouth until they were able to build a product that you could say, hey, come and check out these trails.
Right, right.
They were very quiet about it, and the moment that happened, you could really see a visitation increase.
Right. And so
in the summer months.
Yeah, and so these statistics that are being gathered are definitely pointing to increased occupancy rates in the hotels and the restaurants and ancillary businesses as well.
Yeah, the 2025 numbers that we got back from Tourism Valemount in terms of hotel room stays, or at least the 2% tourism tax, or MRDT, Municipal Regional District Tax, showed pre-pandemic levels and increases from those before the pandemic, and so really seeing an upward trend there.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's stay on the subject of tourism because during this term, another major development has happened. In all the previous years, the Village of Valemount has been the tourism marketing authority. In the past number of years, the what do they call it? Destination marketing organization was formed, and Tourism Valemount became an entity on its own. How has that transition been in terms of the village, having a major role in that, and now having certainly an important role, but not an operational role?
The single role that we as a village play now in that destination marketing organization is the receipt of monies from Victoria from the MRDT, plus the 1%, because we are a resort municipality, to which Tourism Valemount may allocate towards infrastructure development, whereas the 2% is solely on marketing and promotion. The independence away from council, away from the village, I think really opened up opportunities and ideas where the current executive director, Marcy Down, has really accelerated event planning, visitor attraction, change up on the board, expansion of the board of directors, having not only representatives from the hotel sector or accommodation sector, but other not-for-profits throughout the area, like Yora, like Varda, has really allowed for an embedding of ideas, and I couldn't be happier to see them as an independent. Not only that, but they are operating the Visitor Information Center. Mm-hmm. And so really seeing an uptake in artist commissions, and things like that. And who doesn't like the biggest Chinook salmon you could ever possibly see in front of the Visitor Info Center during the salmon run, which we should be enjoying here in a couple of weeks.
Right. Well, tourism is a big part of Valemount, and not having to manage that aspect of it, I think, must certainly be a relief in some ways to the administration of Valemount in terms of manpower resources and financial resources as well. But to see it operating so well, it must be a really good feeling for you. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the supports from the senior administration levels in years prior was fantastic. But it just gives them that much more capacity to look towards resident service delivery versus visitor service delivery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, Marcy and the team there have just done a bang-up job.
Oh, wonderful. Let's move from tourism to forestry now. We'll talk a little bit about the Valemount Community Forest, the Valemount Industrial Park, the new mill there. The Village of Valemount is the primary shareholder for that. It is a revenue generator, and it obviously forestry is at the whim of whatever is happening in terms of the amount of wood that can be logged, where it can be sold, tariffs, et cetera, et cetera.
Softwood lumber agreements.
Softwood lumber agreements, all of those things, right? So, it's a bit of a roller coaster at times, I guess, but what would your general comments on the VCF and VIP and the mill, the new mill as well be?
So just for clarity, the new mill is within the purview of the Valemount Industrial Park.
Okay.
More than just a tenant, it is a piece of operations by the industrial park, along with 13 or 14 other tenants, including TELUS, and I believe Rogers should be coming on board shortly. And you're right, Michael, the forest sector here in BC as a whole is having some struggles, and with that, the Valemount Community Forest and the industrial park, particularly the Valemount Specialty Mill, has gone over some road bumps. But I think the forecasts hold true, and I think if that mill still continues on as a specialty mill, getting away from that dimensional sort of primary breakdown facility like the Canfors and the Dunkleys of the world, and continue to offer good value in the hemlock species and timbers, I think it's going to do okay.
And how has the it has been somewhat, I won't say controversial or tumultuous, although I did just say those two words, but I don't want to go down that path, but I know that it has been, there have been different managing directors appointed, there have been different board members appointed with different priorities. A little difficult from the village's point of view because you're not hands-on managing it, you have a team that does that. How have there been concerns there from the village's point of view, and how have those been addressed?
I think the separation of the two, separating the two companies away from one sort of master board of directors was the most responsible thing we could have done. Where you see agreements between two companies signed by the same person, maybe. Not the best for transparency, but now having the two separate board of directors on the two separate companies certainly allows for better reporting, and again back to that transparency piece, no longer seeing that where agreements are signed by the same individuals.
Right, and I believe during my time reporting on council, I did see more in reporting from the general manager and from the organization, so that keeping council a little better informed about major activities there.
Yeah, and I think the next council can expect the same sort of reporting out, particularly early on in the term, sort of that introductory, hey, I am so-and-so from the Valemount Community Forest, I am with president or vice president or board of director, and as well as the Valemount Industrial Park.
Right, absolutely.
One thing I really want to highlight with the Valemount Community Forest is their willingness, and if you can remember way back when they started doing some fire breaks in and around the community, it was met with, oh, great, here comes a bunch of sand on my porch. But the August 10th, 2024 wildfire, the Canoe Road wildfire, that particular fire break did exactly what it was intended to do, and some good foresight there.
Oh, great. Well, that's a good segue into my next topic area here, and that is I have seen over the last number of years an expansion in the Village of Valemount's emergency management program, and not just with fire, but with all kinds of emergencies there, including the implementation of the Voyant Alert system, which has been, very effective in that situation that you just mentioned, the fire last year here close to town. Can you talk about how that fits in terms of the priorities of the Village of Valemount, the emergency management program?
It is a high enough priority now, Michael, given the climate outlook, where we now have dedicated, singularly dedicated staff people on that file. With the Voyant Alert system, if you're not up to speed on maybe downloading an app to your phone, by all means reach out to to our staff team at the village. They'll walk you through it.
It's a very easy process. I did it myself. It took 5 minutes, and I'm very thankful for those alerts that come out.
Yeah, fortunately, I'll knock on wood later. We haven't needed to use it this emergency season, but we're not out of the woods yet either.
Yeah, absolutely. Fire Smart is another big aspect of that, and I believe you've hired a Fire Smart coordinator with the village, and you talked a little bit about fire breaks, and I know there's a couple of projects in town here, one right near the new senior center that has that. Do you want to talk a little bit about Fire Smart and that side of it?
Yeah, so Michelle came to us through some funding from EMCR, Emergency Management Climate Readiness, and the Ministry of Force. And we had probably within the last 2 weeks secured our second round of funding through that program. The partnerships that we've been able to have with the BC Wildfire Service, as you mentioned, the Ash Street project has now gone through its second year, where we finance the wood chipper, and the good people at the wildfire branch are able to train on chainsaw skills, tree identification, etc. And the result is a park-like setting along 13th Avenue and Ash Street. Having that big, beautiful 18-unit independent seniors living facility now better protected through that sort of thinning of that forest really puts a lot of people at ease.
And is the plan to continue that in areas around the village? Has there been discussions about that?
Nothing on the table right now. One of the things we really need to stay focused on is individual homeowners setting up their sort of that fire smart circle.
Right.
The removal of fuels away from the home, and really continuing on that education piece. And again, gratitude to VCTV, where last year we were able to host Mr. Westhaven, Westhaver, and the recording of that community information center.
He talked about those zones, he talked about sprinklers, he talked about all kinds of things. And I'm starting to see some of that now, people moving, for example, moving their wood piles away from their homes and things of that nature.
And it'll be difficult for some. I mean, doing these sort of things is not easy or cheap. But I think just the small things, like you say, take an afternoon in the fall when it's cool, or in the late spring when it's a bit cool, and start mulching in and around your home, or like you said, moving that wood pile away from structures. I mean, there's lots in town that simply can't do it. I mean, there are a couple of mobile home sites, smaller lots north of 5th Avenue, where that outbuilding can't be 10 meters away from your primary residence, that sort of thing. And I can remember when the farmers market had their first Fire Smart assessment sheets, 39 was a really high score, like extreme score. And my wife and I did ours, and we were like 390. And we're like, we're all gonna die. But the point is, you can do small steps and still achieve a lower score.
Right. But it is, I mean, it is something that, I mean, we just have to look around at what's happening with the planet and with the climate, and understand that it doesn't get better unless we work towards it. We're putting ourselves at great risk, and our fellow citizens.
I was just on a seasonal hazard update call this morning. The province is coordinating 6,800 evacuees right now. If you look further south, the city of Spokane, 60,000.
Wow.
In Washington, evacuated from that city. Our experience with the Jasper wildfire in 24 really highlights the importance of fire smarting.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about pipelines. So we just got through the building of a pipeline, and now there's talk about another pipeline. So what from a village perspective, what were the experiences with regards to the first Trans Mountain pipeline that went through, and what are your thoughts with regards to potentially a second one? Or a third one, I guess. There's already one. So,
boy, did we ever see a real estate spike. rentals, monthly rentals going through the literal roof. Unfortunately, with some purchases of housing and things like that, folks did have to move on that had been here for some time. That is probably the most negative impact felt from that construction project. On the other side, if you had anything to do with the project as a contractor or a retailer or goods or services, you did well. And I think the more I look at it during that time, the project also came to us during the pandemic. And so a lot of the communities along the line were sort of looking within and sort of wrestling with not only COVID-19, but now a big influx of visitors in terms of a workforce. Looking ahead to the West Coast 3 or the Trans Mountain 3 or whatever they're going to call it. If somebody can tell me the economics around it, that would be awesome. But we've had a sort of a verbal agreement among the leadership throughout the North Thompson, Mayor Blackwell in Clearwater, Chief Lampro at Chouchoua, and Chief Rob Kerslake in Barrier, that we'll be approaching this next pipeline as a valley-wide voice versus, I have specifics, that needs to be addressed. But I think we'll be looking at things like pavement policing and pipeline personnel in terms of drug and alcohol testing, etc. But the big one, as well as power, looking at Trans Mountain will likely be the second highest consumer of electrons in the valley. And so that comes with big impacts to our already fragile power grid. Mm-hmm. And so working with those communities, with First Nations, again, back to that MOU, we'll be looking at this from a broader perspective.
Right, sort of a strength in numbers approach.
Yeah.
And lessons certainly were learned. And as you said, it came at a time when COVID was really impacting everyone negatively, financially and socially as well. And then on top of that, you had this, it's a poor word, but windfall of additional funds coming in to help with that gap that was formed by COVID. So the lessons that you learned from that in terms of, as you said, housing, but also services, grocery stores, restaurants, and how to, there's things that are obviously beyond the village's control. However, from an educational point of view, that information could be shared and maybe planned a little better before the next one.
Yeah, communication was a and communication should be one of the easiest things a project proponent can do. One thing that the pandemic did show us is that you can do virtual meetings pretty darn easy. No need to travel, no need to be in a room during a pandemic, masks or no masks. I would give them a 1 out of 10 rating on that communication piece. And moving forward, it'll certainly be integrated into our community benefits agreement. Mm.
Let's move on a couple of smaller items. One was a nice one for dog owners, and that's the construction of the dog park at Osage Park. How's that gone?
I think it's gone very well. And with the soon-to-be undertaking of the overall active transportation plan. So the dog park itself was constructing using temporary materials, so construction fencing. Mm-hmm. And we still don't know if it's the best spot for a dog park. We loved it when we were fostering dogs in terms of a response to the Ukraine conflict. It was right in our backyard. However, I would really encourage folks to continue using its location. And if it is identified as a more permanent spot in our active transportation plan moving forward, it'll be there for years to come.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that active transportation plan, because that is something that I've seen on and off with regards to the planning that went out at for the new seniors facility in that area out there. There was always talk about a new trail system that would link various things. Can you expand on that a little bit? Do you know anything more about that at this point?
Well, the as identified in our official community plan, the Mountains to Marsh Trail system certainly will be a topic of discussion with the planning group. Lees and Associate has been a successful proponent to sort of lead us through that, including community engagement. I believe we have one coming up on the 17th of March.
We won't hold you to it.
Sorry, the 17th of August, pardon me. And it'll give opportunities for sector leaders to engage first off, and then they'll be having a second round for the greater sort of stakeholders of Valemount.
Okay, so it's an ongoing project, and it may be something that I mean. I walk every night and I kind of see the usage on the Bigfoot Trail, and it might be something that could link the Bigfoot Trail to other trails and informal trails, or maybe even more formalized
Not
trails.
just the trails that are established now, but also the parks that are established. So Johnny O, potentially, well not potentially, the Sportsplex, Centennial Park, being key feature parks and future parks as well. So within the official community plan, the concept where the Ash Street Seniors is now, there's also another park planned in that concept.
Okay.
So how do we tie that all together? You've got the old rail line that came from the main line through down 13th over to Silica Sands years and years ago. Even trails that have been initiated by residents and over time become the norm. What role do they play in future subdivision planning, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think well, that whole Ash Street project there's a myriad of trails through there, all informal, of course. Let's talk about the village's purchase of electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And I know that the village has, over this term of council, has purchased 2 vehicles. Do you want to expand on what they are?
Yeah, so the Ford Lightning was a funded purchase through Columbia Basin Trust, where should you retire an internal combustion engine in your fleet, that they would assist with funding of an electric vehicle. The Ford Lightning being the result. The second, and it's funny, Public Works couldn't push it out fast enough. If you as a council member were looking to, say, use the vehicle in its early days, and now if you're looking to use it, it's busy. They absolutely love it over there. The second vehicle was purchased through the local government climate action program, which we're still in discussions with the province to see if that funding will continue. With the discontinuation of the gas tax, or the consumer gas tax, we're not sure what the climate action program funding looks like beyond 2027. But that vehicle for bylaw services was funded through that program.
Right, and for those who aren't familiar with it, that's like kind of funky looking. I don't even know what make it is actually, but
It's a Kia.
Kia, okay.
And yet just slightly, just large enough to have a pretty big kennel in the back seat for animal control.
But the experience with electric vehicles is something that the village is interested in pursuing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anything to assist in bettering our use of fossil fuels, and highlighting the need for electrical redundancies through BC Hydro, all the better.
Right, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about water. We'll kind of switch gears here a little bit. I want to talk first of all about, can't see it from where we are, but the Swift Mountain landslide and potential impacts that it may have had on our water supply system. And then the follow-up question to that would be, I know that the village has engaged a company to do studies on the water supply and perhaps changes to the delivery system of that. Can you talk about both of those items?
Yeah, so in late July of 2021, we had a piece of Swift Mountain let go. In the end, it was tectonic in nature. just overburden. That really opened our eyes to that single source water. Maybe we should start looking at beneath our feet. And in December of 21, drilled 92-ish feet in the Swift Creek drainage basin area, one test well, and then engaged there was a drilling company in town at the time, and in 23 engaged with Calageo, a company that works in that space, to really look at not only a second well, but working with Urban Systems, our engineer on records, what does it look like to have, to reconstruct our water intake? Because right now it's solely there to supply water to our water treatment facility. It's another thing altogether to route lines from water wells into your water intake, particularly in a fish-bearing stream.
Right.
That reconstruction is looking like a $3.5 to $4 million price tag. We were unsuccessful in a grant to look at that, and we think by investing in the engineering of said project, I think future grants look a little bit better. The two wells were really good. At 92 and just over 100 feet, both were producing 100 gallons per minute. So good news there. We found another source to expand on. In terms of future risk around the Swift Slide, there's always going to be risks. We live in an area where mountains like to be flat, but we're working with academia, so partnerships through the University of Northern British Columbia. Right now we have 5 grad students in various master's program looking at that slide. Probably literally as we speak, Michael. One is looking at tilt meters, so putting instrumentation in the stress fractures behind the slide to see if and real-time reporting to see if it's moving at all. We've got another grad student looking at satellite imagery and how can we identify movement through it. We've got another grad student looking at LiDAR surveys. The province just announced in the last couple of years a pretty significant investment in LiDAR mapping. So we do now have a baseline to look at, thanks to the University of British Columbia, or Northern British Columbia. And now with the further investments from the province, we can compare and contrast.
Yeah, great. Well, it sounds like things are moving in a positive direction there. I think we've seen other communities, McBride, for example. You can't have all your eggs in one basket, and you have to have a plan B and C, maybe even D.
Absolutely, and with water wells, it's not the end-all be-all, but it gives us certainly another source.
Let's talk about. Let's go back a couple of years. You and I were both there the night the Jasper fire happened and the evacuations. I think it's almost just over 2 years ago.
Yeah,
right now.
That's right.
I think we learned a lot of valuable lessons. I certainly did personally about what has to happen and how a community pulls together. And it was really unbelievably satisfying to me to see how people threw open their doors and their businesses and their organizations to deal with people. What are your recollections on that? And from a village perspective, is what lessons were learned? And in this day and age of being prepared, and we already talked about that, what can we take forward from that?
Still gives me goosebumps to this day, Michael. Both in heartbreak and just glee to see a community come together like Valemount did. I remember the first night you and I were directing traffic, and for a long time in the rain, and I can't imagine the perspective of those coming to Valemount, and as you might recall, we had pretty impressive lightning show that night too. Mm-hmm. And our emergency support systems really went into overdrive. One of the things that we were able to identify from sort of our after action report, as an organization, we did a lot of things well. One of the things we're, now that the emergency support services is really holding fast to, is there are about 40 things somebody can do in an emergency as a volunteer, and we saw it during the evacuation. The coordination is key. Mm-hmm. And I have blankets, I have teddy bears, I have a spare room, I have these resources and pieces of capacity need to be identified far before we start receiving visitors.
Right, right.
And right now, of those 40 things that you as a volunteer would like to do, we ask you to identify 3, tick the box on that. I would like to be part of the next support team, and that's where you go. The night of, it's not the best time to start, okay, Michael, you need to go over here, or you need to do this. I mean, luckily,
doing their best, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody did better than their best. Like you said, of folks opening up their homes to not only friends and family, but complete strangers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And at like 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, the Legion cooked breakfast for 36 hours straight. The New Life Center was feeding lunches to folks. You could find a sleeping bag in the upstairs church. The Anglican United, when you talk to evacuees, so what did you take with you when you evacuated? Well, I grabbed a bag, some clothes, my bike, and not much else. Well, there was folks that arrived here with next to nothing, and were able to get clothes through that organization. I mean, everybody just put their best foot forward, and again, proud of the community.
It was an amazing experience, and I think, maybe that's the 1 in 100-year emergency that they talk about, because who expects a town of 10,000 or more to suddenly spill into your town and need things, and there's only so much you can do, even if you're prepared for that kind of a situation.
Well, not just the municipality of Jasper, but the whole Northern National Park was needed to evacuate. So, businesses, in retrospect, maybe they, and I'm sure they would do it again, but a lot of businesses turned off their tills and just fed people, clothed people. Just a community coming together for another community, and we were highlighted at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Convention in Edmonton, both from a emergency response perspective as well as a host community. And again, just hats off to Mayor Ireland of Jasper to really bring the story forward to the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm. I kind of liken it to the 9/11 situation and Gander, Newfoundland, taking all those people and just being totally overwhelmed, but just welcoming them into their homes as if they were family and treating them that way as well. From a social perspective, we all know we're a small town. We do what we can for others, and that's the way of life. You're in a small town, you have to help each other, right?
We're Canadians and we're BCers. We'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. But from a business and economic perspective, it was a hard hit for us because it wasn't just the night of the fire. Yeah. It was 2 weeks of Highway 16 and Highway 93 closures right after that, and that really affected businesses terribly. And I know that the Village of Elmont spearheaded the initiatives to try to get some form of compensation. Can you talk about that process without going into huge detail? But yeah. And I know how it came to a conclusion, but maybe just kind of fill people in on the process.
Yeah, so there's only so much you can do as an organization from a capacity standpoint, and during the aftermath of that whole emergency management circle is recovery. And you still have an obligation to residents and businesses just to continue on. So we engaged with, or to provide the services that you do. Water, sewer, and roads is paramount. When it comes to economic development, economic recovery, we enlisted the services of Strategies North out of Kamloops, and they had they're a registered lobbyist with the BC government, with the federal government, and now with the Alberta government as a result of this endeavor. And they did all the groundwork, Michael, in terms of setting up meetings with provincial ministers, provincial opposition, the Premier's office, MLAs in Alberta, ministers in Alberta, the Premier's office. So we had a meeting with the special advisor to Premier Smith. And it was a bunch of different things that sort of presented some hiccups along that route. You had the BC government election, so the writ was dropped. There was no communication with the province from November of 24. Was it 24? Yeah, from November of 24 onward until the cabinet was produced. And then you had a federal government go into prorogue from, in January you had a reshuffling of the Alberta cabinet. And then in March you had a federal government that went into prorogue. And so while we were having meetings early on in February with the BC government, we had some virtual meetings with the Alberta government as their cabinet was forming. And then we had also had plans to head to Ottawa. And all of this was with not only Strategies North, but again with our partners at SIP First Nation. Again, that larger voice. And it's something, and Chief Lampro tells it much better than I, but the look on a senior official's face when you're in the same room and across the table from a First Nations chief and a village mayor, they don't know what to do with that.
Right.
They've never seen it before. It never happens. And so it just speaks volumes. And I think through that conversations, or those conversations, the Alberta government came back with, okay, if you're a business that took on additional costs to host evacuees, present that in an application-based process through the Village of Valemount, onto the municipality of Jasper, onto Edmonton and back forward, resulting in about $305,000 out of the 1.5 that we were looking for, 1.5 million. Some businesses closed as a direct result of those highway closures, or that lack of income based. So you had 20,000 evacuees, you had a big spike, and then nothing.
Right.
Nothing at all. And the closures for some businesses were really the straw. From an economic standpoint, the pandemic was one thing, but to have entire markets closed off for 3 and 4 weeks is another.
Right. And I would have to say, and I've heard this from many other people, that it was very disappointing to see the BC government not step up to the table in that situation.
Yeah, and I agree with them, but I do see the point of it wasn't our emergency. Does it make me any less disappointed? No. But even getting a task number through EMCR and Prince George Prioc was a direct phone call to the Minister of EMCR. 9 o'clock at night, of course, she's down with her daughter, and she's like, what's going on? Yeah, well, I've got like 20,000 people coming.
Yeah, I mean, it was new territory for everyone. However, hopefully lessons were learned from that. And, I've actually had some kind of negative people say, well, shouldn't do that again because look what happened to us. It's human beings. We're helping human beings, and there's a cost to that, right? Even if you help your own family, there's a cost to what you're doing, but you do it because you're a good person, or you're a good town, or you're a good community, right? Whatever the situation is.
I remember the 2018 wildfire season where we had roadblocks set up on 5th Avenue and 9th Avenue. During those evacuations, Highway 97 was closed, and we had 13 to 16,000 vehicles a day coming through here to get to emergency support services in Prince George, and just the look on some, you got the same response from residents. Why would you do that? Well, at some point you have to have people move on.
Exactly. You would want the same treatment if it happened here, and it could happen here very easily, right?
Absolutely.
So,
The roles could be reversed instantly.
yeah, unfortunately, we're in this kind of situation where the north-south connections can be severed quite easily, right? And we have to be aware of that. And I would hope that the provinces and emergency people would understand that, you know, there are exigent circumstances from time to time. It's not just all black and white. It's your emergency, you're covering it. Well, it's not our emergency, but it's our neighboring community's emergency, and we're helping them.
Well, I hope, and we're very insistent during those meetings that that line be erased when talking about emergencies, because wildfire don't care.
Right.
Floods don't care. Anything could happen at any time with Sparwood and Pincher Creek and Dawson Creek and Grand Prairie and Jasper and Belmont. I mean, we are one of 4 passes that, you know, Lake Louise and Golden. Like, those mountain passes are the 4 that connect us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing that connects us is an emergency.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully lessons have been learned there. Just a couple more things on our agenda here to talk about, and you started talking about it earlier, and that's the relationship with First Nations. We'll just wait for the train whistle to go by here a second.
3 more, Michael, 3 more.
We know, we live here, we get it. We can count the whistles. It's kind of nice from up high. I'm usually much closer to the whistles, and they're much louder. Maybe while that topic is happening,
sure,
we'll switch. Instead of talking about First Nations, we'll talk about whistle cessation.
I'd love to.
Where do we sit with whistle cessation?
Right now, when Transport Canada mandated CN Rail to put in crossing protection at various points across the nation, it's my understanding they went with an average traffic count. In our situation, we have some pretty unique vehicles here, and I don't know why they didn't consider it when they did the installation of these things, but school buses and short bunk trucks for logging and forest harvesting operations do not have enough time to cross the crossing before the gates come down. So the distance or the speed in which the train is coming, if a driver made a decision to cross, they could not before the arm comes down. And it is tenths of a second. That's how silly in my mind it is. Early on conversations with CN Rail to modify these 2 crossing arms is in about the $1.5 million mark to sort of address that tenths of a second discretion. We're looking at Transport Canada again in terms of grants and other things to so that, you know, our residents have been impacted enough by the woo long,
you mean
long,
that
short,
nice
long.
Romantic train whistle from the steam engine that goes by once a day?
Yeah, the 95 decibels at 45 meters. Yeah. So yeah, and without placing further burden on the residents, looking at grant opportunities through Transport Canada.
So that's where we are now.
Yeah.
The studies have been done. It's just a question of
traffic studies have been done. Everything that we've needed to do in order to make those crossings as safe as possible, the stop lines, the crossing warnings, the newly installed stop signs on Main Street to give the right-of-way to those oncoming traffic crossing the railway, so they have the right-of-way. We've done everything that we possibly can to appease what needs to be done to get rid of that whistle. But now it's a little bit of money and more conversations with CN Rail to modify those crossings. crossing arms and the timing.
Right, right. So now let's go back to, if we can, the First Nations discussions.
Way better topic.
Yeah, way better topic. In terms of maybe just expand on what you were talking about, because you did talk about the MOUs, but kind of bring us full circle. I think one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about was the C2C. I'm familiar with it, but many people won't be. So maybe talk about what C2C is.
Back in the 2010s, the community-to-community program was first spearheaded by the province to help lessen the financial burden of a community building a relationship with a First Nation. In our case, so that's where it really spearheaded from. And then it was left to, the funding was there, then it was, I think it was like $10,000 per community or something. But it was enough to host or to travel to the nations. And then it was left to the communities after that to organize and to facilitate. We started early on in, they were probably doing it in 2014, 2011 term. Certainly we've been doing it from 2014 onward on an annual basis. And we took a bit of a break during the pandemic, it's completely understandable. And then what had happened from a Simp First Nation and a Village of Elmont standpoint is Councillor Tina Donald of the nation said, you know what, it's getting harder to have 5 or 6 different C2Cs per year. You know, with the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, Barrier, Clearwater, Valemount, McBride, Regional District Fraser Fort George, we're just going to have one. And it's going to be everybody.
A big one.
And we meet, we discuss opportunities, challenges, we feast, which is my favorite part of it. And it has been working well. One of the things that I'm really looking forward to is that the MOU side has identified that we form focused working groups between the nation and Valemount. So we have 2 members of council, 2 members of their council with some staff supports, and within a time frame identified in the MOU, bring those recommendations forward to each other's council to be ratified. With the Claytley Tenay, we're more of we've just started. So we're still building that relationship. It's a fantastic relationship. It'll be our 3rd C2C coming up, so September 2nd, we are hosting again. We have signed that sort of relationship building MOU that in both cases will transcend councils. So regardless of who's in leadership, those MOUs will still exist. Well, have the personal benefit of having 2 really progressive chiefs in either nation willing to move on projects and really look at opportunities through Victoria's lens to improve not just Valemount but the entire valley.
Well, it's an interesting development. Was very pleased to see the MOU with the Claytley Tenay.
Yeah.
It was quite something. Has there been any discussion with either First Nation about having representation on the ground here in the village, like having an office or having some sort of presence here?
Yeah, so the Simp do have economic ties here in the village, so their economic arm, Simp Resources Group, has an office on Main Street.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just down the road from the bakery.
From the bakery, okay.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't aware of that. Okay. Yeah, I have seen their vehicles there. All right.
And we are, I believe, August 27th is a Friday, yeah. We've been invited to the soft opening of the interpretive center, the Claytley Tenay's interpretive center at the Ancient Forest.
Oh, that'll be something new.
Yeah, I drive past there at least once a month, and in the last 4 months, there's been significant advancements on that project. Construction-wise, it looks gorgeous at 110 kilometers per hour.
Yeah,
allegedly.
They certainly put some tremendous work in there. Let's wrap things up with a couple of topics here.
We'll just go back to the MOUs for right now.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
The Forest Service roads play an integral role, both to residents and visitors alike. And the Regional District Fraser Fort George has really spearheaded some worthwhile discussions with the Ministry of Forests, and included in those discussions is Claytley Tenay. And so just want to again thank both the leadership at the Regional District and Claytley for really looking at forest roads are more than just logs.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They're a vital access point for many people, yeah.
And again, that same holds true with SIMP. Means much more than just a tree in the forest.
Absolutely. Well, as we sit here, it's August what is it today, 7th, something of that nature. Yeah, 7th.
Something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just at the tail end of the water meter installation program. I know it's been a fairly lively topic in amongst the village.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. How has the installation process gone? Where are we with it now, and what can we expect from that in the future?
We are about 92-ish% complete. Contractor Neptune will be back in the fall to finish up sort of the latecomers to the game. What it means moving forward is an opportunity for folks to, those who choose to conserve, to do it and to monitor their consumption rates. One of the biggest things that this program opens is further funding opportunities. So if we know exactly what we're consuming in terms of, we have an idea of what leaves the water treatment facility and what enters the wastewater treatment facility. We have no idea what happens in between. And so perhaps down the road, when we need to do an upgrade to, say, our water reservoir, there's a funding opportunity to address that. When looking at climate-related events, perhaps there'll be funding opportunities to address those through knowing what we're consuming. And I think 5, 15, 50 years from now, we'll be better off because we know exactly what we're consuming. Swift Creek is a snow-packed based spring, and we don't know what that looks like 40 years from now.
Right. Well, hearkening back to the discussions we had earlier about other water sources, etc. I think that the biggest thing that I hear in discussions with people, and I'm sure you do as well, is what is going to happen in the future in terms of. I remember the open houses. The question was asked, how's the billing going to work? Yeah. Are we going to pay more for our water? Are we going to pay less for our water? How is that all going to work? And the answers were at that point we haven't really developed the framework yet for how the billing is going to work. Has that progressed any further yet?
No, we have no data.
Okay.
You cannot create a funding mechanism without knowing the numbers. There's not an equation out there that is, the equation that we need to come to is completely dependent on the numbers. And I have a preference that, we follow other community models. Jasper, for example, has, they bill 6 times a year, much like BC Hydro does. So and that was one of the biggest takeaways I had from the open houses was, don't bill me twice a year, or don't bill me once a year. Bill me like 4 to 6 times a year, so I can adjust. I can look at last year's billing, I can look at my last quarter or my last 2 months, just like you would a BC Hydro bill.
Right.
And I, as a consumer, would like to see that as well.
I get that. However, it's a bit of a logistics question. So that information is, I mean, the system's been installed, but it's not online yet per
That's
se.
right.
It has to be measured somehow, and it has to be, that data has to be gathered somehow and then collated into a system that you can actually use. That I'm certain is probably going to take a long time.
It'll take a year or so
to establish that.
Yeah.
And then after that point, it's how does that billing cycle get physically done, right? You know, staff time, et cetera,
That's right.
in terms of
I mean,
that, right?
it's another service.
Right.
Right now, as a water user, you pay once a year.
With a flat rate.
With a flat rate.
Yeah. Right.
With multiple billing cycles, there's going to be more effort needed
Right.
for both resident and the staff team.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's one thing to sit here and say as a consumer, and I agree with you, is I'd like to see a billing more often, but that necessitates more staff time, more resources, and so that money's going to come from somewhere too. So, you know, it's maybe a compromise in the end about, you know, maybe it's 4 times a year or 3 times a year or whatever, right? I get it. Nobody wants to get a $2,000 surprise bill at the end of the year for water that they weren't expecting, right? And not that that's even a possibility, but, you know, I get the sentiment there. Nobody really wants those kinds of surprises. So the plan then is to get the system online and start gathering the data, and then has there been a date established for when it may actually physically start to a billing process?
No, we haven't established a date yet. Like I said, this will take a year at least to gather enough data to properly give a fee structure.
And will it be a fiscal year type thing? It would be established when the village changes fiscal years, or
that I'm not sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
I'm asking questions.
One would hope, but again, even if your data gathering cycle is September to September, you have at least that much data to work with, and likely it won't roll over until our fiscal. So it'll be at least a flat fee for the duration of that.
All right. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about is what we started talking about, and that's the upcoming elections.
Mm-hmm.
So October 17th is actually election day, and advance voting is October 7th this year. So it's actually, you know, what, 2 months from now for advance voting, right? So it's coming very quickly in terms of that. There's a nomination process. You can go online to Elections BC, and they have all the key dates there in terms of when nominations are due and when nominations are closed, et cetera, et cetera. What would you say, having gone through the process, the unique process that we talked about at the beginning here, for people who are interested in running and for voters in general for this upcoming municipal election?
Well, I will start with potential candidates. Don't come into this process blind. There are a lot of rules associated with the election process, the nomination process, finance reporting, disclosures, and the village has already started candidate engagement or potential candidate engagement.
I've seen those
through various workshops. One just passed in July. We're having another one in August here coming up, so that maybe you as a potential candidate are not sure if you'd want to put your name forward or not. Perhaps some of these workshops can give you more insight as to what it's like having the privilege of a lifetime in representing your community and representing the constituency, and number two, just how much effort it can be.
Right.
I would also recommend.
It is. I mean, it's not a can-be situation. Anybody who knows you or fellow councillors know how hard you guys work in terms of you know, you just don't go in twice a month for a council meeting for an hour and then you're out of there. It's constant.
My other recommendation is come into this thing with more than one agenda item. If you've got a beef or something where you're wanting to see an immediate change around one or two things, what are you gonna? And you can accomplish that on a Monday, but then what are you gonna do on a Tuesday? It's a
for the next 4 years.
For the next 4 years.
Yeah.
And just also remember your one vote of 5. And so when you're considering topics and resolutions, you've got to convince your team. And if you're a group of 5 individuals, man, it doesn't work. You gotta. And I've been so fortunate to have 3 really good teams alongside me to advance the village. For voters, let's hope we have an election. Back to our original. If you are interested, if you have a friend that's on the fence, get them onto the ballot. Let's have an election. It's the sole basis of democracy, is to choose who your leadership is going to be. And I just hope that we have enough folks come out, and I hope we have an election. And looking forward, of course, to anything VCTV has for us in terms of a all candidates forum.
Absolutely. We want people to be involved. We want people to ask the questions that they need to ask, both in terms of the council responsibilities, as you talked about, but also of the candidates as well, right? So that's very important to be part of the process. You know, we're all human, and we all like to grumble behind our backs and complain about, you know, this person did this person hasn't done that, et cetera, et cetera. But bring those comments to the table and see what kind of responses you can get. You can't get change if you don't ask for it.
That's it.
So, you know. I want to thank you very much, Owen, for sitting down with me.
Thank you very much, Michael. And again, you couldn't have chosen a better
I'm telling you,
spot
on a day too like this, just a nice little breeze here with the mountains in the background and our lovely little village below there. It's perfect. It's ideal.
Thanks very much for the conversation.
Thank you.